Hi, in this video, we'll take a look at a few ways of handling a field that is conditionally required on your forms. This is not for someone who's never seen a UI policy or a client script. However, it's not really that advanced either. We're just talking about a few considerations. For example, in this form, we have a field called closing status that we want to require whenever the state goes to a closed state. We could do that with a business rule, for instance, but we're going to talk about just client scripts and UI policies here. Looking at the client script we have set up, if it goes on submit, which is would be when we right-clicked and saved on the form, this one is set up to show a field message right underneath the field. So if we went here, for instance, and we set it to close complete and click save, it gives us a nice message right there, calls attention to the field, works great. If you have this field in view, though, if you're looking at section A, tab, and you do the same thing, you're not going to see the end user won't know what's going on. That's something to consider if these are going to be on a tabbed view or a section of a form. Notice also the way I did that. When I keep clicking save, it keeps stacking the messages. I don't like that myself, and I tend to like to clear the message before setting it like that, so that when you come back, you reload the form, and we run that again. That way I can click save over and over again, and it doesn't stack up like that. But back to the issue about the tab not being selected. Well, there is a method that is out there. I don't think it's in the official documentation, but it is g_tabs to sections.setActive. It here is just an example of it setting an index. Each tab, there's an index to the tabs, 0, 1, 2, 3, and so forth. And if you use that method with another method inside it to find the tab index of whatever field you're using, in this case U_closing status, it will bring that tab into focus. And that is handy because if I move closing status to another place in the form, I wouldn't have to go and change this code necessarily, because this will follow that field, which is what I want it to do. So if I reload this, and I go to, and that doesn't have a value, I go to the section A tab, I go to close the state, and I right click and click save, and the section B tab is brought to the forefront, and closing status is required, the error is there. Now that works very well if, it seems like it works very well if you have tabs at least. Now I will mention that if you have a user who does not use tabs, but rather has form sections, or for some reason you're using sections across your institution, that will not work for that situation. If in that case, if we do something like try to set it to close complete without a value in that field, we're not giving any, we don't see the message. You might find out that something's wrong because it's not saving, but you'd have to hunt for it. So if you have to consider that, you might just consider throwing a message across the top like this, at the top of the form. And pretty obvious, but I'm just showing that as something you might consider if the need should arise. So that way, even if we have this collapsed and we go to close this, we get a nice message up there, and at least they know there's something to hunt for. They know what they're hunting for, closing status. So let's quickly take a look also at a client script that operates on change, and also talk about UI policies. The handy thing about these is that they can actually operate when you make the selection over here before the person clicks save. In this case, we have the client script set up to on change of the state field, and we have it is going to show the field message just like we did before, same thing. And we're going to go ahead and have it also select that tab. We've gone back to the tab view here. So if we go to another tab, go to close this, and as soon as I select that without even having to save it, that's the advantage of using the onChange script. And that is kind of nice. Again, if you're in a tabbed view, that works. Of course, you can always throw the arrow to the top, also is a good option. One thing about client scripts, though, we do have a set mandatory method here, but I noticed that if you start to use it, that it is mentioned here, the best practice is to use a UI policy rather than this method whenever possible. So we're not going to recommend that in this video. So instead, let's look at a UI policy. Really, this can be the easiest to set up. When you go to, notice here, we're going to apply it for those three closed states. And you go to add the field on which you want to have an action performed. And we're going to make this a mandatory field. And that is pretty good, but we also are going to throw in a little script just to take use of that, highlight the tab method. When we do that, we get a combination that results in an action like this. Okay, our field is not selected. Here we are, and I go to select close complete, and it takes us to the tab, and that field is mandatory. Now, it would put the asterisk there next to section B anyway, but it wouldn't bring section B to the front without that extra scripting there. And of course, without that, also, if I went to save, it would give that, and it would take us to the field like that. But if you want to do that right when the field is selected, instead of waiting for them to save, again, that is a nice way to do that. Well, this has been a brief overview of these things that hopefully that method will come in handy for you if it works for you, or these considerations will come in handy. Thank you for watching this video.